Thank you, everybody. Thank you for sparing your time and joining this webinar. It is my pleasure to be here and to be in the company of so many young people. It's always, in spite of having spent so many years in industry, there's nothing like coming back to school and talking to graduates, undergraduates, postgraduates. It's always been my favorite time whenever I get a chance and opportunity to go back to colleges or schools, management schools, engineering colleges, IITs, IIMs. So I took a lot of sessions in IITs and IIMs, practically each and every IIM that there in the country, ISB. So nothing like coming back to school. So it's my pleasure to be here. And yes, welcome to all of you to this webinar organized by Woodsville Academy. Now, it's my pleasure that we have such an excellent audience from various esteemed institutions from Delhi University, IITs, IIMs, IP universities, and more. And I would also, of course, not at the least, but definitely would appreciate Sayam and his team and the organizers from Woodsville Academy, who, in spite of having approached me just about a week back for having this webinar, have in such a short turnaround time designed and implemented everything. It's just a demonstration of the true entrepreneurship at Woodsville Academy. And my congratulations and best wishes to Sayam and his entire team. Also, so let me start with a short introduction of myself. I already mentioned my name, but just for those who have joined after that, I am Anirudha Chakravarti, and I am based out of Mumbai. I'm born, brought up, educated, everything in Mumbai, though by Bengali, by mother, I am a Bengali, but everything that has been in the city of Mumbai. I've done my BE Electronics from Mumbai University, passed out in 1996, and currently I'm an associate director at KPMG Management Consultancy Services since 2017. Since 1996 to now, 24 years of work experience, where 15 years have been in consultancy since 2005, and my first 9 years were in industry, where I worked for CMS Computers, which is an IT firm, for Johnson Controls, which is a US-based MNC, dealing in building automation systems, fire alarm systems, security systems. So I spent almost four or 5 years over there, and then a couple of years at Merck Electronics, that is the people who manufacture the Onida brand of electronic equipments, ACs, and all that. I was, in fact, the head of Six Sigma at Merck Electronics, and after I left Merck Electronics, I joined a consultancy firm called Kimpro Consultants. From 2005 to 2014, I was with Kimpro Consultants. In 2014, I launched my own freelance consulting company called the Bottom Line Consultants. So from 2014 to 2017, mid 2017, almost 3 years, I was doing freelance consulting. And since 2017, I have joined KPMG. So my core areas of expertise, strategy, quality, business excellence, digitalization, business continuity. I do a lot of training on these topics, and I do a lot of hand-holding to management and teams, organization operations teams in organizations to actually implement these strategies, implement business excellence model, implement digitalization programs and business continuity plans. In all my years of consultancy, I have worked with diverse industries and sectors that include multinational conglomerates, Indian MNCs, manufacturing, government, small enterprises, quite a bandwidth up there, and from service sector, from hospitality sector, from engineering, fabrication, glass manufacturing, textile. I mean, it's been a wonderful time working in such a diverse nature of industry. And also, I'm a nominated member on a board for multiple startups and incubation centers. This diversity of experience includes aviation, healthcare, IT, like I mentioned, renewable energy also there. And in addition to all of that, I've authored a couple of journals, books, quite a few events that have had eminent dignitaries, ministers, and associations. Well, that's about myself. But just to get started with today's session, I thought I'll share with you my experiences of what I have observed and experienced in these many years as to what are the various success and failure factors for any startup organizations to grow big. Though, yes, it's easier to work with established organizations. but startups again present a completely a different deal and a different challenge. So let's talk about the startups part of it, because that's what you're we are here for, to start and sustain businesses. Now, I came across many instances and in my entire professional career, which of course I'm going to be sharing with you. I'm going to give you, as we talk about certain concepts, I'm also going to be talking about a few examples, a few experiences that I've had with regards to those concepts, with regards to those principles, which will just make it a little more entertaining, possibly a little more enjoyable. Okay, let's start with what it is about building a successful business. When we talk about building a business, what is it about building a business that's important? There's one thing that we need to realize very early that into this session, that there is a distinct difference between running a business and building a business. If you take any local grocery shop or pan for that, they are also running businesses. Running business is all about just operating your business and making money. Of course, doing anything to make money happen, and of course, just staying within the borderlines of legitimate business and legitimate ways of making money. It's all about just being there and being reactive, opening a shop and sitting down. People come, they purchase. You don't really have any way that you go out to get customers, or any way that you create any schemes that customers will come. You just are running a shop, and as long as people keep walking in, you make business. So that's about running a business. We are just there and making yourself available to serve without any real effort of attracting more customers, or building your business, or creating your brand, or anything of that sort. But when we talk about building a business, it's about creating the brand, and there's a key differentiator over there. Now, whenever I talk about this question about building a business, or what keeps the business sustainable, what builds brands, and most of the CFOs that I talk about when we get into initial discussions, whenever we are consulting kind of a exchange, or when we are at the very first initial stages of talks, and the normal conversations that we have with CXOs. What do you think that builds a brand? What do you think that helps sustain a business? And I keep hearing about profitability. We need to work about profitability. We need to make sure that we register quick wins in the industry. We should be able to expand our business. We should have continuously growing EBITDAs. Top line needs to be growing. All these are very important. Money. Money is extremely important. There's no doubt about that. That is what keeps businesses running. That is what keeps businesses growing. But money is something that is of importance to both running business and building business. But what is it that is over and above? What is it that is different about building businesses? And the key differentiator about building business as compared to running a business is customer, where you put your customer first. It's extremely important that we consider that the customer be the fulcrum, customer be the entire focus of our existence. My dear friends, businesses exist because customers are there. If there weren't any customers, then that business wouldn't exist. And in the words of our great leader, Mahatma Gandhi, he had mentioned, and something that you can always find out among the quotes of Mahatma Gandhi, if you Google that out, he said that customer is the king. It is the customer who's doing us a favor by allowing us to provide our services to him. He is not, we are not doing a favor by giving our services, but he is doing us a favor by allowing us to provide our services to him. So always respect the customer, because he is the reason for your existence. Of course, a lot of government organizations wouldn't understand what Mahatma Ji is saying, but that's what is, even a person like Mahatma Gandhi had that kind of understanding and learning to share that customers are the most important aspect of any business to be there and to grow and to sustain, and that without focus on customer, it would be very difficult for any business to sustain and grow. Now, what does that focus on customer mean? What does customer mean? That we always hear this term very often it is spoken about that customer is king. What is the meaning of this term that customer is king? That is, we need to be creating a value for the customer. That's what's most important, creating the value for the customer. And value for customer is not something that is realized out of the basic functionalities of whatever service or whatever product that you're delivering to the customer. It's not, when I mean by basic functionality is, for example, if you take a pen, what is the basic functionality for pen? That it needs to write. If you think that by providing a pen that writes to a customer, you're going to make the customer happy, that is what is being customer centric, that is what putting customer first, then you're mistaken, because that is just basic functionality. So any product or service that meets its minimum requirement of being there, and saying that, just because I'm providing that much, that I am, I'm putting customer first and I'm adding to the customer, is a myth. It's a mistake, because basic functionality is something what the customers may at the least, it is the minimum thing that any customer would expect, because that is what it's paying you for. Whether it's buying a product or whether it's buying a service, whether it's a telecom, whether it's a pen, whether it's a SIM card, or whether it's a Wi-Fi broadband, whether it's a hotel that you check into. And the basic functionalities of a clean, hygienic room in a hotel with room service, with clean drinking water, I mean, these are basic. If a hotel going to kind of advertise on the fact, what, we provide you with clean drinking water every day. I mean, come on. That's not going to make the customer, oh, wow, that hotel provides clean drinking water. And that's a basic functionality. So it's not basic functionalities that you can really put customer first. It is about the value. What value are you providing in your service, in your product, over and above that basic functionality? It's about, uh, whether it's a comfort of the bed, or is it the color of the walls in the room, the kind of the air conditioning that is there, kind of toiletries that are there. You can have basic, you can have things that really wow the customer. So there is, what is important is to realize that putting the customer first, providing value to the customer on a long-term basis. It's not about just here and now. It's on a long-term basis that we must always focus on what is it that we can provide over and above the basic functionality of whatever product, whatever service that we are providing to the customer. We have to look beyond the basic. We have to look into the value-adding details. And this is the most important. Companies and organizations can do that. Who can do that? You think about any successful organization. Think about any organization that you admire, that you kind of look up to, and you will see that they do this, that they pay attention to the value creation to the customer, which is providing that over and above the basic functionality to give a real impression, to really make the customer more than just satisfied. Now, so it is not driven by short-term financial gains. It is driven by a long-term aspiration, a long-term vision, a long-term goal to keep your customers delighted. And what is the basic reason why do we stress on the fact that sustainable businesses, businesses that building businesses, for that you need to have customer centricity, or you need to focus on customer, or you need to provide value to the customer, because when you do all this, you are creating that wow factor in your customer. If you're able to create that wow factor in your customer, then you are guaranteed on one thing, and that is customer loyalty. And in this competitive world, my friends, a loyal customer is an asset worth gold, maybe diamond, maybe what. It's an invaluable asset to have a loyal customer, because loyal customers give you repeat business. And repeat business is the backbone of business continuity, business sustainability, building businesses, whatever it may be. Anything to do with growing and building businesses is supported by the most important backbone, and that is repeat orders. And repeat orders can only come from loyal customers, and loyal customers can only be there when you have delivered to the customer a wow, feeling of wow, over and above the basic functionality, something that creates more value to the customer in whatever way uses your product or your service. Now, just to give you a little example of this, just before in COVID, in fact, in February, in the month of February, earlier part of February, I was traveling down from Spain to India on a business trip where I met someone young. It's always, like I said, I always enjoy meeting young people and talking to young people because that really gives me a lot of kick, if you may say. And so I met this person on the flight, and young guy who was running this very good organization called World Skill Development. And World Skill Development is about a group of education institutions that are, what I should say, dedicated. They are dedicated to creating global employable skilled people. Okay, so it's a very interesting concept. You have a trained workforce and you have a skilled workforce, or an educated, rather. I would not say trained. I would rather say educated. There is a very important, what I should say, a kind of a gap, very interesting and very worth considering, a gap between being educated and being employable. And in fact, why I kind of related to that person and what he was doing is because quite a few years back, and I think it's as way back as in 2006 or 2007, something like that, we had actually done a survey on employability. And it was a year when I think a lot of the B schools had a classic drop in the number of placements that they had. And there was also a very famous incident of Google having interviewed 3,000 IIT graduates, but only have employed three. And so that was the thing, and there was a concern. And we, in fact, the consultancy that I was working for, Kimpro Consultants, we were given a job to find out why this is happening. And that's where we conducted a very interesting survey, and we found out that students at that time, they were educated, but their employability was low. And very interestingly, the low employability was because two main things, and very interesting, two main things, and that was communication and decision making. So those two skills were not so strong, and that is why I think beyond that, some of the curriculums have changed to correct the situation. But very interesting, and that's why I related to this person, because I could understand that there was a bridge to be gapped between being educated and being employable. And so that's where this person's organization came in. A list, a group of education institutions that were dedicated to building a skilled workforce globally. And it is a promising initiative driven by world forums and multiple countries, and a lot of countries have enrolled for it. Governments have sponsored it, and so it was a good thing. And this chap I met had invested heavily on businesses across European Union, Lower Gulf, Asia Pacific, and few other places. It's quite a guy. And so when we started to chat, and his inspiration was to make profit. And we got into that section of discussion where I kind of realized that this person is now into a mode where he's only looking for making money. The larger purpose of having done of creating this organization has now somewhere lost its shine, lost its focus. The only prime purpose now remains of making money, possibly because of the funding and pressure of the of lenders. I wouldn't. I mean, that is something that I was supposing, but that's what I was seeing is what his focus seemed to be very largely and very high on making money and making profits. And that's where he was discussing with me whether there was a possibility of us supporting that person how to maximize registrations within the geographies of India, or whichever geographies we could help him in. How do we maximize registrations? Can we do geographical profiling for him? Can we do audience profiling, or kind of the thing, and see how registrations can be maximized? And I could, like I said, I clearly sense a hunger for money and impatience. He wanted the money as fast as it could be. But where was this? The whole affair that he was missing out was what was he providing to, what was the value he was see. When you have an educational institution or any finishing school or any kind of training institution, providing that training, like I was saying, that's the basic functionality. Everybody comes to that, registers for the course, knowing that they are going to be trained, they're going to be coached, they're going to be mentored, or whatever it is, that they are going to be learning something from that institute. That is the basic functionality. Now, when we talk about value, and we speak about value, that we're talking about customer focus and building business and business sustainability. It's all about wowing the customer beyond basic functionality, looking into more wow factors, looking into more value enablers. Where was all that in stock? I couldn't get any point from him which pointed at that direction, that he was thinking anything about a value proposition for his customers, for his students. The students that were enlisting were from a wide range. There were the people who were, some people were with work experience, some people not with work experience, some fresh graduates. So he had such a wonderful mix of opportunities, because he had people from so many diverse backgrounds coming and enlisting for his course. And there's nothing other than basic functionality. Okay, come register and go. And what is beyond learning, we don't know. So do I have something in place for you to, now that I claim you are more employable than before, can I demonstrate that by giving employment? Can I demonstrate that by giving you some placement? There was nothing of that sort. So, there was no talk about placement, no talk about employment opportunities. There was no talk about any industrial exposure. So just about coming and learning and going. And then what happened to you after the learning? No one was interested. Uh, were you propagating my institution to others through your experience? Nothing about it. Was I in any way trying to keep in touch with you beyond the course, to know how you are progressing in life, and any way that I can use you to progress my institution? Nothing about it. So it was very vanilla. I mean, you have a program, you come and register for it, you complete the course, and that's it. I don't know nothing more about you. Didn't really seem something where value addition was provided there. So that's where we spent almost 2 days with that person, and try to map out these things. That what are the value enablers that you are going to provide to the students, the participants, beyond the course. Is it about employability? Is it about fraternity? It is about forum that people can exchange, understand, meet, greet, employment opportunities. Where good people come back to your institution after having completed the course and have progressed in their career, and talk to the people who wanted to register some kind of seminars or type, so many things were top of the mind. So that's what is important, that while making money is of course top of the crop, but what is the foundation of making money is making sure that you remain sticky to your customers. It's not just about the point of sale. It is not just about the fact that, okay, you have been successful in attracting the customer and capturing his attention, and making sure that he comes and buys the product and service. Is that the end of it? That's a local grocery shop. That's the end of it for him. Person comes, buys the material, then walks out of the shop, finish. There's nothing else before and after that. Is that the way we want to operate? If that's the way we want to operate, then we're only running a business. If you want to build a business, we got to talk about stickiness with the customer. We need to talk about long relationship with the customer, not just limited to the point of sale, but way beyond the point of sale, even possibly way before point of sale. So there is an entire life cycle that is there in trying to understand what customers need, understand what is the market trends, create products and service deliverables that meet those needs, that are relevant to today's time, that will capture the attention of customer for today's time. That's all pre-sales. Then point of sale, that happens because of the pre-sales. But then after point of sale is the experience. Is the experience of the customer of having what you are delivering through your process or your product. The thickness that you have, the value creation that you have for the customer. So until unless these three things are addressed, uh, sustainable businesses are not going to happen. So in order to create and build sustainable businesses, these are three key ingredients. And of course, also comes along with it quality of your deliverables. It's very important. And quality of deliverables, you mean, is about performance. Is about how good those services or those parts perform during the life cycle with the customer, depending upon how long the customer wants to use them. Quality of staff that are delivering those requirements, competency of staff. So people, process, product, all those three things need to be considered. Competency, people who are delivering the processes, delivering the product, delivering the services, very important. You just can't recruit people for the sake of recruiting numbers and bodies and then expect them to do fantastic jobs. So we must invest. A lot of people, a lot of companies or places, they consider the cost of human resources, and that's a big mistake. It's not about the cost of human resources. It is about the investment in human capability, and that's the positioning that is required in our minds for building sustainable businesses. Are we looking at our human resources cost, or are we looking at them as an investment of capability? So if I'm looking to build my business, if I'm looking to create a sustainable future for myself, I have to look at investing in human capability. And that is building the right competencies, building the right human capabilities to deliver the services and products and to add value to the customer experience. So that's one part of people. The process is the same thing. It's about ensuring highly capable processes. So process capability is something. So we need people capability, we need process capability, and these things go hand in hand. Very, very important. Many times you might have heard of the very, very frequently used term, right people for the right job at the right time and right place. Too many rights in there, right? Or each of them is important. So you need the right people doing the right job at the right time and the right place, and nothing can second that. So that's about people and process, and making sure that work in tandem to provide customer experience, value in customer experience. And of course, coming back to my association with this young person who was building global workforces, employable workforces, and then of course he had lost heavily in Southeast Asia, and he was almost planning to close operation in India, uh, wanting someone to buy his operation in India, but okay, I don't know. We didn't get too much, but he when one creates. I think at the end of it, he sold out. I'm not too sure. I didn't get into too much of it, but I think in the end of it, he sold out. But the biggest learning from his experience is this: that he was building on business. He was only interested in making money. So it's a funnel that he's creating, funnel for making money, and until that at a point of time that funnel chokes out because he may have trained a good percentage of the population, and then he has no more people left in, or the people are just now no more interested in his institute because there's nothing coming back from there. And keeps adding new students, cares least about what goes on with them. After course, leaves them alone, hunt for jobs on their own. So didn't create a very good taste. It leaves a choked funnel, heavy on input, but choked on the customer desired output. So a lot of input, yes, in terms of new trainings, but then nothing on the desired output of employability. So he made some money initially, but is now spending that money in fighting legal implications. And that is what is my message for you. That, like I said, for building sustainable businesses, number one, you have to focus on what's important to the customer in terms of value enablement, not about basic functionality, but going over and above the basic functionality in providing value. And in that providing value, we need to focus on capable people, capable processes, and look and through them, look at what we can do with our products and services beyond their expected, what the customer expects out of them, and really add value to customer experience. So that's what's also, let me closer to home. If you take the example of Oyo rooms, I mean, all of us are aware of Oyo rooms, fairy tale kind of a story. Hitesh Agarwal, I think that's what his name is, and started off exceptionally well, world's youngest billionaire and all that, but now he's fighting for survival. And investors are coming down heavily on him. Mainly, again, I have a personal experience of having stayed in a couple of these Oyo rooms, in a couple of parts of India. And from a personal experience, I can say that while the concept was well thought out, but the end was not well worked out. If you can make sense what I'm saying, that the concept was low pricing, very good. But then it doesn't mean that if I'm just going to pay a lower price for hotel accommodation, that I don't deserve a treatment that's worth mentioning. So very poor services, and quality was, I think that's what he focused was only if a hotel was willing to price lower price bracket for the bed, then it wasn't. They didn't really focus on ensuring the quality of services, the infrastructure. They just saw, I think, 3 or 4 criteria: that you need to have a reception, that you need to have a dining, that you need to have room service. I think three or 4 things is what were qualifying criteria for registering on Oyo. And they didn't really look at what location, what kind of infrastructure, what kind of people. So I think that concept, that whole thing was not with the customer experience. That's what I'm saying. The value of customer experience was not thought. He just focused on the price. This was an Indian scenario, an Indian market scenario. Price is king, but it's also the fact that no one says that even if I'm going to pay a lower price, it means that I don't deserve, not if not the best, at least better than the rest. So keep on the hindsight of these 2 examples that I spoke about, and the fact that what really goes into building sustainable businesses, let me delve into it with a little more depth. So the first thing that comes to mind, if I want to build a sustainable business, is, like I said, and I cannot keep harping up that less enough, is customer centricity. There's nothing that is more important. First and foremost, look at what the customer wants from the customer's perspective. Very often we make this golden mistake of trying to, guess by ourselves what we think the customer would want. While I wouldn't debate, there are a few examples. If you take, Apple and all that, people always keep telling, whenever I talk about this fact that to understand what the customer wants, you need to go and talk to the customer. But yes, there is Apple who created a need out of nowhere. But you have to understand that there's a difference between lifestyle products and commodity products and daily products, those kind of things. So Apple completely created business out of lifestyle. So there you don't really have to go to them. You define the needs, because it's about lifestyle. So you define the needs, you keep raising the bar, and the market follows. So that's a different aspect. But if you look into everything else, whether it's commodities or consumables and all the stuff, there it is pretty much driven by what the customer expects or the customer wants. And so very, very important to understand from the customer's perspective what they want, from the product or service that is being provided. So a lot of things we'll talk about. I have done quite a few sessions with Airtel and Vodafone, and there's always this a tussle over there. What does the customer exactly want? Does he want uninterrupted signal? Does he want always the best signal? Uh, Call drops. What is the kind of tolerance to call drops? And that's where we set standards. And that's where Airtel and Vodafone set standards. Okay, our drop standard are going to be this. Our signal strength ratios are going to be this. Our tower to signal ratio is going to be this. I mean, that's where we used to always say, you set these targets and you set these goals for yourself in your jargon, which customers don't understand. And does it really relate to a customer experience? We do not know. So the way it should be is that you go and ask the customer what the customer wants, what the customer expects. And once you have captured the information, then you translate that into your jargon and your formulae. Don't impose your jargon on your formulae on the customers. They don't understand that. And that's why there is always a feeling of being lost of whatever telephone service I may be using. So just as an example. So it's very important that we, as people who are going to build and sustain our business, that we get sticky with our customers, that we empathize with them, understand what they need, and based on those needs, then convert it into our design features and our technical engineering language. And sometimes, it also is a question mark on who is the customer. So a lot of times that becomes a question by itself. Whether it is the end user, whether it is a distributor, whether it's the dealer, who's my customer? Because for the manufacturer, the customer is the distributor, because that's where his product goes. For the distributor, it is the dealer. And for the dealer, it's the consumer, the end user. So where does the chain end? I mean, where do, as a manufacturer, as a basic provider, who do I look to? Do I look to the distributor? Do I look to the dealer? Do I look to end user? And that is where it's very important to understand that when it comes to, I'm sure all of you understand this, but when it comes to brand, no one really looks at the dealer brand or distributor brand. They look at the product brand. And so for any case, whether I'm directly connected to the end user or not, ultimately I'm responsible for a value experience for the end user, not for the distributor dealer. Of course, they are important part of the supply chain, but at the end of the day, it's all about the end user. And that's what is important to realize as far as who is the customer is concerned. And also, and along with that is one more important thing to understand, that whenever we talk about customer, we are not always only talking about the end paying customer or that end of the chain consumer, but also internal customers. Internal customers are as important for an organization as our external customers, because it is a chain. It's the only how strong you are in fulfilling internal customer requirements will define how effective you are in meeting external customer requirements, in delivering value to the customer, in giving the customer a feeling of wow. It's not a long jump that you straight away jump to customer experience. It is through a chain of internal customer satisfaction, and only how strong that chain is will define how effective you are in providing value to your customers. So please never ever forget the significance and importance of internal customer satisfaction. And that is where I would like to share an example with you. It's a very nice example of a pharma company. And this was a pharma company way back in the 1900s. And it was an acquisition. It was a joint venture between the European owner and the Indian owner. And the ratios had recently flipped over. So the European owner was now owning 51%, and the Indian owner was only 49%, which was reversed till then. Now, of course, the CEO need to be replaced, so you have a European CEO coming and sitting in the Indian office. It was in Mumbai City, and that time I had just, of course, I was not part of this experience. It was my boss with whom I was working in Kimpro Consultants, and he has, kind of told me about this experience. So it's learning from him. And he started off early, so Impro Consultants had started in 1987. This is somewhere in the 1900s, 93, 94. So the Indian owners, they were close to my boss, and they asked him to go and find out what this English European CEO was up to. It was kind of that thing, and this mandate, and this European CEO, he had been given a mandate to turn the company around into a customer-focused organization in 1,000 days. So he had a 1,000-day mandate to convert this pharma company into a customer-focused organization. So around 3 or 4 weeks, this is what my boss, in his storytelling format, told me. That around 4 weeks into his appointment, my boss went and met him, and the South Mumbai office overlooking the Arabian Sea. And this person was sitting on his desk. The desk was completely empty. There were no circulars, there was no files, nothing. And he was just there staring into the sea. And so my boss said, okay, he's enjoying his time. It's just been 4 weeks since the appointment. He's got 1,000 days, which is 3 years. So, okay, no problem. And so went and introduced himself, pleasantries exchanged, and then comes the main topic. So what are your plans? What do you plan? How do you plan to go about making this organization a customer-focused organization? This is the 4th week of the CEO's appointment. And the CEO says that I have already done my job. My boss was completely taken aback. And he says that, how, what have you done? I mean, I see nothing. And it's just 4 weeks. And you say, you already done your job. He says, yes. All I did was I called in my first week of appointment was all about parties and welcome and all the stuff. So all that got over. Second week of my appointment, I called my immediate subordinates, that is the vice presidents of this organization, and asked them 5 questions. 5 questions I asked them. First question, who is your customer? Nobody had any answers. They started taking answers of hospitals and all that stuff, people who buy the medicines. So the CEO says, no, I don't want to know who's your end customer. I want to know who is your customer. Who is the direct recipient of your work? That is the question. Who is the direct recipient of your work? Of course, the VPs had no answer to that question. So he told him, okay, prepare an answer to that question. Once you have prepared an answer to that question, second question that I want you to answer is, what is it that you provide to your customers? Who's your customer? What is it that you provide to customers? Third question, how do you measure your performance on what you provide to the customer? Fourth question, how does the customer measure your performance? And fifth question, how do you intend to improve what you deliver to your customers? He says, I have given them 5 weeks to come back with these answers. Once they have those answers ready, I will review it with them, and then that same exercise will follow down to the entire hierarchy of people. So he says, I don't need any circulars. I don't need any letters. I don't need any communication. Simply, I have set the ball rolling. The grapevine will talk for itself. My subordinates have to answer these 5 questions for themselves. Once they have answered it, they will ask it for their subordinates. Then they will ask for their subordinates. And that's how, in a waterfall cascading manner, I plan to convert this organization into a customer-focused organization where each one of them, each employee, is going to meet 5 goals. Understand who is his customer, understand what he provides to the customer, how is he measuring his performance, how the customer is measuring his performance, and how does he want to improve on what he provides to the customer. Simple method, and that creates customer centricity. So it's not only about what you're providing, it is also about to whom you're providing. And both of them take center stage, and that is why it's important to understand the importance of internal customers being as important and equal significance as the external paying customer. But is customer centricity everything? Because there's a flip side to it. We've spoken about customer centricity. We've spoken about focusing on internal external customers, providing value to the customers, customers being the focus of our existence, the purpose of our existence, and everything. But is it the only thing? Or how far do we go into it? If you really look at the Indian mentality, we love the free thing, right? Anyone provides us anything free, we just go and grab it. And that's one danger, because and all those are done only to win customers. Why do you provide free this and free that, and along with this, that free and this free, is all for you to attract customers, because kuch muft milta hoga to fir people come there, right? So, but what is important to understand is what you provide to a customer, whether it is free or whether it's low price or concession or whatever it may be, but whatever you provide to a customer, in order to attract his attention, in order to grab his attention, then from there, that point onwards, that becomes a standard. You cannot pull it back. So you cannot say that, okay, that was only a promotional thing. So I provided for a little point of time, and now when I have the customer attention with me, I will withdraw it. Now regular business continues. That's a big pitfall, because that will lead to customers reacting negatively. And a lot of places it has gone quite horribly wrong. Very, example I can give you is in hotels, hospitality. Yeah? There was a very interesting case in the Taj Group of Hotels, and Taj Group of Hotels is very well known for their customer focus, and the customer is king. And we have all you have even during the very extremely unfortunate incident of the Mumbai terror attack, uh, the way the Taj Group of Hotels treated not only their guests but also their employees. So they really consider their guests to be and the great part about Taj is that whether you are booked into the lowest price room or the highest, there's a 10,000 rupee a night room or a 40,000 rupee a night room, the kind of attention that you get is the same. They don't make a difference. But okay, having said all that, what I was coming to is that there was this very interesting case of corporate customer, CEO kind of customer. Uh, Once what happened was, instead of, he normally gets a suite, but on a particular instance, there was no suite available, and so they offered him a deluxe room, one below the suite. He was of course unhappy about it. He says, "No, I can't. I need a suite." They said, "Sir, please, whatever. We give you a complimentary bottle of wine for that." So okay, so fine. So that complimentary bottle of wine was given just to pacify the customer and make him accommodated into a deluxe room for just that night. From the next night onwards, he would be moved into the suite. So just for one night, because they didn't have a suite accommodation, they put him into that deluxe room with a bottle of wine, and that they thought this was a one-off. But okay, it was just because of this instance that we couldn't give him the sweet, and so we gave him wine and coupled it up and made him happy and pacified it before he started making noise about it. But then what happened after that? Whenever that person checked in, and he got a sweet always before that, but irrespective of that, he would always ask for his free bottle of wine. And that became a headache for the hotel, because that was just given as a one-time off, and it was a one-time off, but it became a standard. And not only that, he also mentioned it to his friends, and word got around that for sweet room with a free bottle of wine. And unfortunately for the Taj, it was in double-digit crores that the hotel had to spend just to get bottles of wine across to all its suite patients. And that was just because of that one. So it's interesting. So it's very important to that even at the stake of your satisfying unsatisfied customer, what you commit at one point of time just to pacify, make sure that is something you can afford then throughout the life. Very Another example about airlines that was offering chocolates, free chocolates. Whenever you boarded the aircraft, you got free chocolates. So you go, wow, you can get free chocolates. So the subscription to that airlines grew, passengers grew. And when they had reached the critical mass of passengers to make it a profitable airline, they stopped distributing the chocolates. Within 3 months, the number of passengers also fell, and it was finding it difficult to get passengers because the free chocolates were stopped. So this happens. I mean, so it's very important to set the expectations, manage the expectations, because whatever you provide at a particular point in time, just to create a differentiator from competitors, make sure that you are able to sustain that. Don't think that That can be provided only for a short while, just to create a differentiation. Once that differentiation is established, once I have the customer attention, that I can withdraw that facility or withdraw that feature, and the customers are not going to mind it. They are going to take bad notice of it, right? So uh, two things about customer centricity. One is, yes, it is important, and it is the reason for our existence, and that internal customer satisfaction is as equally significant as external customer satisfaction. Having satisfied employees is as important as having satisfied customers. And again, whatever we provide in order to awe the customer, in order to wow the customer, make sure that they are within the limits of our affordability, that don't create pressure on our profitability. And that is where it's, again, important. I'll end the discussion on customer centricity with one important line, that it cannot be centricity at the cost of profitability. So profitability also is of equal prime importance. That is the financial reason for your existence. At one end is the reason for existence is your customer, but at the other end, the reason for existence is also profitability. So it's always you have to make sure that you have created that balance between uh, your customer centricity and profitability. You cannot go customer centricity to such an extent that you forget about profitability, because that can end up into a very bad situation. And a situation that was with Florida Light and Power, a very classical example. You can also Google it up. It's called FLP, Florida Light and Power. In 2002 or 2003, it was the winner of the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award, which is the world's most prestigious award for any organization. And 3 years after having won that award, that company went bankrupt because they made that mistake: customer centricity at the expense of profitability. So while it enabled them to win the award, but within 3 years, they had to declare bankruptcy. And to the extent that had an impact on the award system itself, where the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award had to change its criteria to ensure that to include sustained profitability as one of the criteria. So uh, that's what is important: customer centricity with profitability, not at the cost of profitability. Then we also need to identify what are our capabilities on how. So once we have understood what our customer needs are, we have to design our processes, our products, our services to not only meet but to exceed those customer needs, to deliver value and create a feeling of wow within the customers. But what our capabilities are. So second step is find out what are our capabilities with respect to these customer centricity, and how you can address this. Okay, and midterm and long term. So these capabilities, they need to go midterm and long term, whether you are looking at midterm action plans or long term action plans. And the coverage must be your entire value chain. Do not create funnels in your business. That's most important. Keep them open and focus on both long-term and short-term goals in order to address those customer capabilities and realize how you're going to address customer capabilities. And like I said, it is from process and people capabilities. So those two things are what you need to address in order to ensure that you meet customer needs. And very importantly, also continually or critically evaluate root causes. Deep dive into what is it that is stopping you from achieving your success. Particularly very important to just to go back to the drawing board and evaluate where you want it to be, where you are, where are the areas that you're lacking, and what you need to do in order to overcome those areas that you're lacking in. And you need to be creating a sustainable business for a long run. Okay. Very importantly is never lose focus on cost, because cost is what drives profitability, and profit is the foundation of sustainability, like I said. So it's always customer sensitive profitability. So on one side you are meeting customer, but always maintain focus on cost. Make sure your costs are always contained to ensure that you have the right amount of profits, because your selling price is of course your cost plus margin, and selling price is governed by market. You can't change that. The only thing that can help to improve profits is by driving costs down. So one very important aspect of sustainability is cost reduction and driving costs down, not doing things like cutting people, manpower, or Xerox papers and all the stuff, the silly thing that people do, but actually get into the cost of operations and find out within running your operations, within running those processes, where are those inefficiencies due to which cost is happen, and you need to plug those leakages and make sure that your costs are always kept tight. Address the root causes that you have evaluated for your processes, for your deliverables, for your whatever you do to meet the customer requirements. If there are any discrepancies in that and deficiencies in that, you must calibrated action plans for that. While short-term plans may always continue, but mid-term and long-term plans also must be calibrated from the needs perspective. And needs will keep changing, because in the long run, you have to understand and remember that customer needs will always be changing, and that is where agility comes in. Agility is something that's important, and we'll talk shortly about it later. But always stay touch in customer requirements, competition analysis, and keep changing to stay ahead. You don't think that once you have set your processes in motion, set your practices in motion, that you can relax. It's not the case. If you want to stay ahead in the race, you have to keep looking and keep changing. Keep looking at the customer requirements, keep looking at technology advances, keep looking at competition, and taking action to stay ahead at all times. Very important. Next thing, fifth point, is to make facts-based decisions. Always remember that data and fact-based decision making, nothing can ever replace that. We don't ride on perceptions. Perceptions are deceptive, and many a times we can make wrong decisions. So always build a strong foundation for data capturing, data analysis, and make sure decisions are always based on facts. And okay, what about tools? What about AI and machine intelligence and all those stuff? Uh, they have their place. And that is an importance of that. But don't think that they are the answer for everything. For everything, many people that I talk to and the organization I talk to, they always say, just automate it. We'll do away with the problems. So automation does not take away problems. If you are manufacturing garbage, automating it will only make you manufacture garbage faster. So garbage in, garbage out. So it's very important that don't look at automation as the magic wand for solving all your problems. You have to work on process capability first, build capable processes that are empowered to deliver customer value, and then automate on capable processes. Then you will see the magic of things. If you try to just automate and you automate incapable processes, you will just be delivering customer satisfaction at a faster rate. So it's very important that whenever we talk about building businesses, sustainable businesses, there's always a talk of automation. There's always a talk of AI, of machine learning, of robotics, and all that. But remember, at the core and the basic of all of that is a capable process. Until unless you have process capability power to deliver customer value, automating that process is just working on garbage. So, and of course, you can look back at the Mumbai Dabbawalas. I mean, they have achieved world-class levels of performance of zero defects across 475,000 transactions in a day. 475,000 transactions in a day of dabbas going in and going out, and not a single error, and no automation, no coding, just a simple 3-color policy. So it's not that it all, of course, it's not to fall back on that, but that's just an example we provide, that it's not always necessary. Okay, so comparative analysis, I've spoken about it. It's always important and always necessary. Also remember that destruction is inevitable in these days, so you have to remain agile, you have to remain alert to overcome destruction. And destruction can come in any way. Destruction can come in form of technology, and destruction can come in the form of COVID. So while technology destruction is still sometimes expected, it is developing over time, but COVID destructions are unexpected and fall out of nowhere. But you can see things like IoT, which is the most relevant thing today, that you run your ACs, you run your toasters, you run your coffee machine. So on your way home from office, you can signal your ACs to be on, you can signal the what do you call, the jacuzzi to start boiling up and stuff. So all this is there, which is also disruptions. Technology is ever evolving. So one very important aspect of building sustainable businesses is embracing technology, no doubt about that. But embracing of technology has to be on a foundation of capable processes. Do not forget that part, right? I've spoken about a lot of these things. Also, let's just take a little couple of minutes to talk about future capabilities that you know, as students, you must be thinking about getting out of college, riding the wave of success, getting out of fancy cars, and with celebrities getting photographed, coming on newspaper cuttings and all that stuff. Uh, it's more ingrained into the thought process because it's one very good thing that we have observed. I, being a person who was born in the 70s, we were more employee kind of mindset. We didn't have the guts in us to become entrepreneurs. We always depended on someone else to give us our salaries. We did not think about generating salaries for us, and which the millennial generation is fantastic to see that the millennial generation is so entrepreneurial, such a wonderful risk-taking gut, with fantastic guts that you guys want to go out and make it happen for yourselves and not depend on anyone else. So it's a wonderful sight to see that the number of entrepreneurs, number of startups today, like nothing what has been seen earlier. And of course, our Prime Minister, sir, who created Startup India, is that while what I want to actually share over here is that while we want to generate employment, we should also put on efforts of being employable ourselves, and because only then we know what we want from others. And so new age skills are different. The demand is differently. Industry 4 today is getting on new technologies, like I mentioned before, IoT, robotics, digitalization, automation, all that. But you don't need to learn everything. That is also a very thing. You don't, like, jack of all trade is no answer to it. But you need to be aware of all of these things. But what is most important is that you need to know and understand your environment, and based on your environment, choose the right path and get strong on that. So it's not that everything works in the same environment. Every IoT has its environment, robotics has environment, digitalization, automation, machine learning, AI, they all have their environments where they work in. So you choose your environment, and based on that, gain your expertise on the one that drives your environment the best. Now, so what is important is that while should be entrepreneurs and look to drive yourselves, but you should also be able to make yourselves adapt with these emerging technologies and not completely be ignorant about them. Okay, and now what it means is that you must be agile. You must be aware of the changing needs of customer, or the technology advancements, the technology fronts that are rapidly and destructively growing in today's age. And so that agility is very important. But with agility, it's also a responsibility. It's not responsibility that you be agile in what you find comfortable, but you have to be more in touch with what the external world is all about. There are also proven concepts. You might have heard about Lean and Six Sigma and other things, which are very popular and which work with industry, there's not a single Fortune 500 company that does not practice Lean and Six Sigma. And if they do that, then there's definitely a meaning in doing that. So look at those options for your organizations. Take expert advice, help on that. And there's a lot of gains to be hatched from such initiatives of Lean and Six Sigma, and they are very important for sustained operational excellence. And yes, so that's the kind of can go on talking about this, but I do believe that we have run out of time, and before it's totally out of time, I can open the session for any Q&A. But before that, my concluding thoughts would be that destruction can happen anytime. It is unpredictable. But businesses need sustenance planning in prior to growth planning. Targets are good, a strong foundation. So like very important and strong foundation is capable processes. Nothing like that. Risk can't be ignored. As entrepreneurs, risk identification an integral part of your success saga. So risk identification, risk mitigation, risk is a very important part. And we have consultancies that deal only in risk and nothing else. So it's a very significant part. Patience is the key. While slowdown have happened all over the world because of COVID, but it's all about lying low and bearing out, because once this passes, then things will be back to bang. So we have to be ready for the bang. And very interestingly, I was in a conference with the medical fraternity on Friday evening, and we had CEOs of established hospitals, Hindu Hospital, Aster, Amri, and few other. And this was a debate that forget about what's happening now. How are we preparing ourselves, and how are we getting ready to absorb the high demand that is going to come post lockdown? So look at how are we going to deal with the post lockdown scenario rather than lamenting about what the lockdown has brought on us, because post lockdown the kind of patient inflow is going to be 10 times of what is happening right now. Are we ready for that? And how are we going to be ready for that? What are we going to do to be ready for that? So that's how you need to think. Uh, Slowdowns can happen, markets can go slow, all of things can happen. But what is important is sustaining the current and lamenting about it. You have to look out for the opportunities that are going to come up after that. It's going to get over, because it's all a cycle of life. Nothing is permanent. Everything changes. This is also going to change. But if in this period of slowdown, if you're not going to prepare yourself for the post slowdown, then you will not be able to harvest those opportunities at that point of time. And that will be a bigger loss, my friends, a much bigger loss. Right? So very importantly, human capability still precedes mass recruitment. You can have thousands of resources, but capable I cannot emphasize less on capability. Right? So thank you for your patient listening. I hope that I have been able to bring some value to your learning, and I open my forum to Q&A, if any. Sayam, back to you.
Just a
Yes, sir.
yeah, yeah. So thank you so much, sir. I believe it was a great learning experience for all. Just a few questions that I wanted to ask, and that every participant was really eager to know at the time of registration. And was that while you talked about a lot about automation, machine learning, robotics, and all. But what is that basic skill that everybody needs to have right now in order to survive in the industry?
Basic skill.
Yeah.
See, basic skill, irrespective of the language you learn, whether it is the robotic or the AI or the machine language or whatever it is, the basic skill that is really required for surviving is ability to make proactive decisions depending on that data and facts. Because the ability, the skill that I should have for me to be successful, for me to run a sustainable organization, the skill that I should have is to anticipate situations, anticipate what's going to happen in the future, and based on that anticipation, have a capability in me that can overcome or that can meet that requirement. So it's a skill to be able to anticipate the future and make decisions on how to meet that future, what kind of capabilities I need to build in to meet that future, based on the data and information that I have with me right now in terms of human capability, in terms of process capability. So if my current process capability is not IT enabled, is not digitized, and the future anticipated requirement is that, then that is where I need to go. Whereas if the anticipated in the future is that I need a more capable workforce, because there is more customer interaction, more customer touch interaction rather than just automation, then I need people. So if I were to answer your question, Sayam, in one simple line, it is the skill to be to take proactive decisions based on anticipation of future needs. That is what is the skill is most important.
Correct, sir. Correct. Totally agreeable. Just one more quick question. It's that how do we maintain sustainability in a business environment like in India, where the purchasing power is not that large as it is in the West? Because companies have to spend a lot of money in promotions and discount-based models, which which basically eats a lot of profits. So how do we maintain standards and sustainability at the same time? So, I mean, how do we do that?
Yes, that has always been a kind of a carrot, egg and chicken and egg kind of situation. So, do we provide value or do we get profits? Uh, so, because we say that let's first create the foundation for us. Let's make our profits, and then we'll think about value. But then, without providing value, the profits won't come. तो करे तो क्या करे कहाँ जाए so I think from what experience I've had is that we have to play on the strength of this country, and the strength of this country is its people, it's its population. So in India it is all about a volume game. So we don't look at unit price, we don't look at in how much profit I'm making in a single unit or a single deal. But if I can look at more the volume game and create, we have the capability to play in the volume landscape, then yeah, that's the model that I would recommend for from the Indian perspective. That whatever can be delivered as a mass product will work better. So that's where you have Uber and Ola and Swiggy. Why are these models successful and at absolutely bottom rates? Is because of the volume. They have been able to exploit the strength of India, which is its population. So if that's the kind of area we need to be in. We can't work on niche products. Uh, those things can come for future, but when I'm starting a business and trying to build a business for myself, I need to be playing in the volume space. And once I've created some wealth for myself, some space for myself, then I look into getting more niche.
Correct, sir. Correct. So I think during the session you have covered almost all the points and would have answered all the questions. And I'm really thankful to you and to the participants, to everybody who came to the webinar today. And we are really privileged that we got a chance to learn from your experiences and your knowledge. It's a really privileged, and we are all lucky to have you on board, sir.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you to all the participants. And if there are any further questions, Sam, you can collect them and email them across to me. I'll be happy to answer.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great evening ahead.
Thank you, sir.